Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tony, for the introduction, and a big thank you to Marlboro County and the City of Evansville for inviting us here this evening. My name is Rochelle, and I'm the CEO and founder of a data center company in the US.
Excuse me, can you speak up because that mic's not picking you up?
Is this better? Okay. Thank you. Yes, certainly. Okay. First of all, Tony, thank you very much for the lovely introduction. My name is Rochelle, and I'm a founder and CEO of a US data center company. And a big thank you to Marlboro County and the City of Evansville for welcoming us here this evening to speak with you. My journey into the data center world is a little bit unusual, and when we were invited to speak with you today, the thought on how to present this material to you was a question mark. And so this is coming from a place of, if I heard that a data center was coming to my community, and I live in a beautiful community in Florida, how would I think about it and what questions would I want answered? So I'm here tonight, not necessarily in my data center hat, but as a person speaking to you, human to human, about data centers, about who we are and what that might mean if one was to come to your community. So I've been in the data center world for about 4 years now, and as I mentioned, my journey here was somewhat unusual. So before we start talking about data centers, I'd like to share a little bit of my story with you because it informs how we built our company, who we are, what our values are, and what we would bring. So to start with, this story starts about 40 years ago. So I knew what I wanted to do with my life from the time that I was a little girl, and I wanted to help. I looked around me, I saw animals in need of protecting, I saw people in need of opportunities, and I saw communities just needing to thrive. And it always struck me why some had so much and others had so little. My desire to help in the world led me to study wildlife biology and environmental management, and I went on to become a wildlife biologist. I spent many, many years travelling through Africa, Asia, and my home country of Australia, helping to protect endangered species and support wildlife conservation programs. Then one day, when I was working in a rural village in Africa, and I was trying to help the community understand why these animals needed protecting, I had a very profound realization. And that was, unless we help the people, we're never going to be able to help the animals. The two are deeply connected. And that realization has carried me through the rest of my life. Healthy communities create healthy environments, and healthy environments support healthy communities. People, wildlife, nature, we're all part of the same web of life. And it was the most important lesson of my life. It actually led me to establish a non-profit organisation that today supports vulnerable communities and wildlife conservation programs. And through that work, I've seen firsthand the difference that education, opportunity, and community investment can make. But over the years, I found myself asking a big question. If helping people helps wildlife, and helping communities helps people and wildlife, then what role should business play? For many years, I believed that charities or non-profits supported communities. What I eventually came to realise is that they're not the only institutions capable of doing so. And I began to look at business differently. What if we could build a for-profit model that delivers the same impacts a non-profit model could? I saw companies capable of creating jobs, building infrastructure, attracting investment, and shaping entire regions. And I thought, What if a business could be built around the same principles that guide my non-profit work? What if development could strengthen communities, not simply pass through them? And what if success can be measured not only by what is built, but by what is left behind? And the more I reflected on those questions, the more I realised that the lesson I learned in my environmental work applied equally to business. The two are inseparable. Just as conservation cannot succeed without communities, business cannot succeed without communities either. No company exists in isolation. A business becomes part of the town, part of the economy, part of the landscape, and part of the future. And if that's true, then it has a responsibility to give something back to the place that helps make its success possible. And it was from that belief that our data centre company was born. Not simply a data centre company, but a company founded on the belief that communities and infrastructure should grow together. We believe that our responsibility extends beyond the fence line. We're not simply interested in building projects, we're interested in building long-term partnerships. And we seek to support and uplift the communities and the environment in which we work. And we're not only here because there may be suitable sites, we're here because we believe that there is an opportunity to build something meaningful together. And the truth is, partnership works in both ways. Just as Marlboro County are assessing whether we're the right partner for them, we're also looking for a community that we can proudly call our home for decades to come. And our goal is to become a long-term partner with Marlboro County and the City of Bennettsville, to create jobs, to support local businesses, to invest in local priorities, and ultimately to leave this community stronger than when we found it. Because that lesson is what has guided me through my life. Everything is interconnected. When communities thrive, everything around them thrives too. And that's the future that we hope to build here in Marlboro County and Bennettsville. So with that in mind, I'd now like to talk about data centres. And I think it's probably a good idea to go back to grassroots. 4 years ago, before I entered the data centre world, I didn't know what a data centre was. And I think that it's a really good place to start because there's a lot of chit-chat in the communities, in the media about data centres and the issues that they may bring, but nobody's really talking about what a data centre is and how it is ultimately part of our everyday lives. So, I'd like to start with a simple question. How many of us here were ever taught what a data centre is? Right, that's good. Okay, and I think it's interesting that the majority of the room hasn't. Many of us in this room, and I look around me, we grew up when the internet and computers started to becoming part of our lives. Others have grown up in a world where computers, smartphones, and the internet have always existed. For most of us, we learned what computers were, we learned how to use the internet, we learned what a website is, and for some of us, we tried or we learned how to build a website, but very few of us were ever taught what was happening behind the scenes. Nobody ever explained where my email went after I clicked send. Nobody explained to me where my photos were stored when they said they were in the cloud. Nobody explained how Netflix found the movie that I wanted to watch, or what happened when I asked Google, or now ChatGPT, a question. There was an information gap, and I believe that gap still exists today. In fact, I think it's one of the reasons that people are uncertain about data centres. It's very natural to have questions about something that we've never really had explained to us. And that's one of the reasons we're here tonight. And the truth is, most of us have never stepped foot in a data centre. Many of us have probably driven past one without realising it, yet almost all of us use one every single day. So let's see if that's true. How many here have a television, a computer, or a smartphone? And today, how many here have either checked their bank account, checked the weather, checked their emails, sent a message on WhatsApp or social media, watched YouTube or Netflix, which I have. And the answer is probably most of us. And the reality is that every one of those activities relies on a data centre. Every time you use online banking, access school systems, shop online, stream a movie, use GPS, search Google, there's a physical computer somewhere that's receiving, processing, storing, and sending that information right back to us. And that computer isn't alone. It sits in a room full of hundreds, if not thousands, of computers. And the building that houses those computers is simply called a data centre. We often talk about the cloud as though it's information that's floating somewhere up in the sky. But it isn't the cloud at all. It's simply someone else's computer that's sitting in a building that we call a data centre. I like to think of a data centre as a bit like a warehouse. You have warehouses that store things until they're needed. A data centre simply does the same. It stores data or digital information until it's needed. And in many ways, data centres are the roads, railways, power stations and water systems of our modern age. Most people never see them, most people never think about them, but they quietly support our digital services every day. And what may surprise you, which certainly surprised me, is they're not new. They've been around for 75 years. They began serving governments, universities, banks, and large organisations that needed secure computing. And then in the 1990s, when there was the dot-com boom, if anyone remembers, and the internet became part of our life, businesses started putting their information online. We began sending emails, shopping online, and using websites every day. And the more our lives moved online, the more we needed computers. And the more computers meant more data centres. And today, just like the 90s, we're experiencing another major shift. AI, the way we work, the way we research, the way we learn, the way we search for information and solve problems is again changing our need for computers. Because AI often requires a large computing power. So every time you ask Google or ChatGPT a question, thousands of computers work together very quickly and provide the answer back to you in a matter of seconds. And one thing that's important to understand is that a data centre isn't like an office building or a factory. They're full of computers rather than people sitting at desks. It's the computers that do the work. So while we're just hearing about data centres now, the reality is that they've been supporting our everyday lives for decades. Most of us use data centres dozens, perhaps even hundreds of times a day. I know I'm guilty of that. And people often ask why the buildings are so large. And the answer is quite simple. Every year we use more digital services, more technology, more people are streaming movies, more people are moving their businesses online. Hospitals, schools, banks, manufacturers, researchers all rely on computers. And the more digital services we have, the more computers we need, and the more computers we need, the more data centres we need. So in essence, we're driving this data centre boom that we're seeing. And like our computers at home, they use electricity, they produce heat, and so they need reliable power and cooling to keep them going. And that's where my colleague Craig will start speaking to you in a moment. So again, the purpose of tonight isn't to tell you how to think. It's simply to provide education on what data centres are, how we interact with them, and why they're becoming such a hot topic now. Okay, now that we you may sort of understand what a data center is, the next question is a very natural one, and that's, what are we concerned about? Whenever people hear that a data center might be coming to town, they have very real questions. Will it increase my power bill? Where are they going to get the water from? Will it be noisy? Will it create pollution? Will it change the look and feel of my community? And perhaps one of the most important as well is, will it create jobs and opportunities for us? These are the questions that we also ask ourselves when we're looking to develop a data center. And we believe that you deserve honest answers and not assumptions. So now I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Craig, and he's going to talk to you about some of the technical components of data centers.
Thanks, Rochelle. So Rochelle kind of outlined what many of the concerns are regarding data centers. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the technology that we're going to employ that will alleviate all of these concerns. So first of all, power is probably one of the biggest concerns that what we hear about is, will the data center increase our electricity prices or place pressure on the local grid? Well, our plan is to generate our own power on site using dedicated low-emission fuel cell technology. So what this means is that our facility, the data center, is not going to rely on the same electricity that serves the local homes and businesses. And so we'll reduce pressure on the local grid while improving reliability. So I don't know if any of you know what a fuel cell is. So a fuel cell is, think of it as kind of like a battery system that produces power without burning any fuel. Unlike a traditional power plant or a diesel generator, there's no combustion, there's no pistons, no large spinning turbines. Instead, electricity is created through an electrochemical process, similar in concept to how a battery works, except it continuously generates electricity as long as there's natural gas and air are supplied. So we are looking to locate our data centers in locations where natural gas is plentiful and available. Why did we choose this technology? Well, it's very efficient. Traditional combustion generators lose a significant amount of energy as heat, while fuel cells convert much more of the fuel directly into electricity. So the energy transfer between the energy molecules found in the natural gas is transferred to electricity energy much more efficiently. Just for a comparison, the electrical efficiency is typically around 60% in the fuel cells, compared to 35 to 45% for most combustion-based power plants. So what's this mean? Because they're more efficient, the blue fuel cells require 20 to 40% less natural gas to produce the same amount of electricity. So that means lower operating costs, lower greenhouse gas emissions, and a more efficient use of our natural resources. Water. So another thing that we hear a lot of concern about is water. Is the data center going to use up all of the municipal water supplies? They're going to suck our wells dry? Well, typically in older data center technology, data centers did use a lot of water. They used water for cooling. Our cooling systems are designed to recycle and reuse water through a closed loop system. So after startup, so the system gets charged with water. A facility of our size facility will use about 5,000 gallons of water over a year after it's charged, which is roughly equivalent to about 80 bathtubs of water. So what is a closed loop system? So think of a cooling system like the cooling system in your car. The water continuously circulates through sealed piping, and it's used over and over again. It's not consumed during normal operation. It's also not discharged into rivers, streams, or the municipal sewer system. So how does it work? Well, the water is pumped through insulated piping directly into the computer servers to keep them from overheating. So you probably, I don't know if you've heard of direct liquid chip cooling. That's how most large data centers are cooled today. So the computers themselves are not cooled by cold air blowing into a room. They're actually cooled with cold water that's pumped directly into the racks that are holding the servers. So this carries the heat away from the servers to the centralized cooling equipment. So you have to have a heat exchange, right? So the heat is then transferred to outdoor dry coolers or heat exchangers. And what happens there is large fans move across the thin coils and the heat is released into the atmosphere. And then the cold water is returned back into the data center, and this cycle just keeps repeating over and over and over. The next concern that we hear a lot about is noise. People are often surprised to learn how quiet data centers can be. Our power systems, the blue fuel cells and the dry coolers that are going to sit outside, typically operate at about 59 to 64 decibels, which is comparable to a normal conversation or background restaurant noise. Landscaping and natural buffers further help reduce these sound impacts. So where does the sound come from? The primary sources of sound are the cooling fans on the dry coolers, the air handling equipment, water pumps, transformers that sit outside, so you hear that transformer pump, and the blue fuel cells. So there are no large engine generators, no turbines running 24 hours a day. So our design goals for sound. So noise standards typically are measured at the property line, not next to the equipment. So by combining the placement of the building on the site, the orientation of the noise producing equipment, distance away from property lines, landscaping, sound walls, acoustic enclosures if we need them, decreases significantly. The sound, that will enable the sound to decrease significantly before reaching any neighboring properties. Emissions and waste. Our power systems use highly efficient fuel cell technology, as I said, producing significantly lower emissions than traditional power generation. I've heard some things about electronic waste and what happens to servers and such when they reach their end of life. The computer equipment is not disposed of in local landfills. It's typically refurbished, reused, or recycled through specialized facilities that recover valuable materials for future use. Those servers and that those electronic devices are actually very valuable because many of those retired components contain a lot of rare earth elements, including aluminum, copper, steel, gold, silver, palladium, and other rare earth elements. So they're actually very valuable to recycle and reuse. And visual impact, we understand that appearance matters, so, there's an image that I think you're going to see later that is indicative of how we want to build our data center buildings. Our goal is not to build an industrial-looking facility that feels out of place. We want to incorporate landscaping, native trees, pollinator gardens, living green walls, and natural buffers to help the project blend into the surrounding environment. So creating a campus instead of an industrial site, that's our goal. Our vision is not to build a fenced industrial complex. It is to build a professionally landscaped technology campus that includes walking paths, open green spaces, native landscaping, tree-lined roadways, attractive entrances, and carefully maintained grounds. Jobs, as Rochelle stated, or Tony stated, a lot of people ask about jobs. How many jobs you're going to bring to the community? We're projecting somewhere between 65 to 80 jobs will be produced by this data center project.
Is that to run, or is that to
Well, to build the data center will be much more than that. So during the construction of the data center, there could be up to 1,000 construction jobs. So those 65 to 80 jobs are permanent, full-time jobs.
So they have a slide in which they're going to show the actual jobs, the salary range, and the job titles as well. So I guess they're going to get to that here in a few minutes.
Yeah, I think we'd like to end with the discussion on jobs. But before we get to that, I think Rochelle has a few more words she would like to say.
Thank you, Craig. I think one thing to think about, which struck me while Craig was speaking, is not all data center developers are the same. It's like, you know, not all clothing manufacturers or shoe manufacturers are the same. Some have sustainability principles and like to build to a certain standard and give back and do, you know, have certain things built into their life cycle. I just ordered a new pair of shoes from Skechers, and they're 100% vegan and made from plastic bottles, and I was like, yay! So there's companies out there that do things differently. And so what Craig was speaking about is how we develop. So we're very mindful on power consumption and to use the power as efficiently as we can and to bring our own power. I think as a responsible developer, you must bring your own power. You shouldn't really be relying on a utility that was set up for the community and the residents in mind. I think some small data centers can do that, but the bigger ones, you know, should really be bringing their own power. We're very mindful about water consumption. We're using cutting edge latest technologies to ensure that the cooling is as efficient as possible. When it comes down to building design standards as well, this is the back of a rendering of one of the developments that we are looking to undertake. And so as you'll see, you know, there's huge flavors of green in there. There's living green walls. We're building buildings that are beautiful, not just white boxes. And we're taking a lot of, we're cross-pollinating a lot of our design with things that others have done in other countries that have lifted the bar. And one of the reasons that we develop in the way we do is on my travels up through Pennsylvania and the old industrial belt up there, we've seen firsthand the scars that are left behind on communities and landscapes when industry doesn't have anybody driving the ship, so to speak, when nobody steps up and sets a benchmark for the rest to follow. And that's really the business model that we've built, is to set a benchmark in the US, because AI is happening all around us, and somebody this time needs to stand up and take the steering wheel and lead the rest into a way that's going to be actually beneficial for all of us. So part of our business model also includes 2% of all project costs. So as Tony mentioned, one of our developments would see sort of 600 million brought in. That's about 12 million going back into the community just in impact projects. And that would be for the community to decide. We would be led by what are your needs, what do you want to see in the city of Bennettsville, and then build our projects based on what the community actually wants. So we're very, very focused on building a model that is balanced for us, for business, and for our planet. And as you can see, there's a few other just basic stats up there on what our priorities are. But I really think that sort of brings us to the job discussion and what that would look like. Craig, did you want to?
Sure. I think we have a slide. We have a slide that
Yes. Yeah, so this is a rendering of one of our data center developments.
development site, so you can
Put
see.
the mic down under your mouth because we can't hear you back.
Okay, is that better? Sorry. So the rendering that you see here is one of our data center development sites. So you can see it really doesn't look a lot like what most data centers look like. It features green living walls, a lot of nice landscaping, pollinator gardens and such. So this is our vision for what we want our data center projects to look like.
How old is that project in?
That project's still under development.
Huh?
It's still under development.
Oh, it's not complete.
That's correct. So I want to speak a little bit about the types of jobs that would be available at a typical data center site. So we've classified the jobs into four different tiers, starting from sort of entry-level positions up to executive leadership positions. So tier 1, these would be the entry-level positions. So this would essentially consist of people working in operations and skilled trades. So education and training required for these jobs would be high school diploma, trade school perhaps, technical certificates, and military experience. And typical experience level for this would be 0 to 3 years. So as I said, these are entry level, kind of starting positions in the data center. What would they do? These would be data center technicians, logistics technicians, so people that are running forklifts around, moving materials back and forth, security officers, custodial staff, grounds maintenance, mechanical helpers, electrical apprentices, and fiber installation technicians. There's a lot of fiber cabling running around the data center, constantly needs to be checked and respliced and reconnected. Salary ranges for roles like this, somewhere between $21.63 to $28.85 an hour, which translates to $45,000 to $60,000 per year. So those are the entry-level roles. Kind of moving up a tier 2, we've classified these as technical specialists. So this requires a little bit more training, typically an associate's degree, or technical certifications, licensed trades, or military technical training. Typical experience would be 2 to 7 years. And what these roles would entail would be your critical facilities technicians. So these are the people that are really making sure that the data center is operating 24/7. So electricians, HVAC techs, network techs, field service engineers, UPS technicians, that's the uninterruptible power supplies, generator technicians, and fiber technicians. Typical salary ranges for these types of roles are $33.65 to $55.28 per hour, which translates to $70,000 to $115,000 per year. Moving up to tier 3, these are the professional engineers and the technical leaders. So this typically requires a bachelor's degree in engineering or computer science or IT, some sort of professional certification such as a professional engineering license or other specialty certifications. Experience level for these roles is typically somewhere in the 5 to 15 years of experience. So these are electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, network engineers, systems engineers, AI platform engineers, and I know a lot of these terms might be some sort of foreign to you right now, but these are really the people that are making sure that the electrical and mechanical systems and the network systems are designed and operated properly. Reliability engineers, the facility manager perhaps, and the operations manager. These roles typically, salary ranges from $57.69 per hour to $105.77. So that's $120,000 to $220,000 per year. And then finally, the highest level of the data center is the executive leadership. So this is really, probably the site director, director of operations, chief engineer, regional operations director. If let's say there are several data centers being located and there's a need for a regional director, that role would be slotted here as well, or the vice president of data center operations. So these require a bachelor's degree, oftentimes a master's degree, with some sort of executive leadership experience. And this is someone that's been in the industry for a while. So this is someone with 10 to 20 years experience.
That building didn't look that big. Are all 65 people gonna be there at the same time, or are only certain, how many people would be on the so-called shift? How many people would actually be in the building working, and not working remote?
Well, data centers operate 24/7, 365. So, there's always somebody in the data center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day.
Yes, sir, but about how many people are there at one time? The most you would have there at one time on a regular day? Who's not working remotely from some other location?
Well, there would be very few remote positions. And most of these people.
Majority of those 65 people will be there every day.
It sounds like a simple question that you're refusing to answer.
No, so 65 total positions, let's say 20 people at a time. Because remember, this is 24 hours a day.
Shift would be like 20 people who would be there every day.
Correct.
That's not 65 a week, 20 times 3 is 60.
What is that salary range based off of?
These are industry average salaries.
So they're not your industry, just like overall industry salaries?
Data center industry salary.
In the state of South Carolina or other states?
These are U.S. These
So
are
US median.
yes.
Okay.
So, okay, one of the first things I learned in public relations, your job is to convince us to go along with you, and we can make numbers say anything we want to. All we do is leave out the ones that don't go along with what we want, and put in the ones that do go along with what we want. Okay? So that's how you convince people to do stuff. Just like you saying the water stuff, there's so many places where their water system have dried up. But you're telling us that that's not gonna happen, but we don't have any proof of that, that we just have your word for that. So why should we buy into that?
Well, let me explain a little bit how the cooling system runs. So it's a closed loop system. It's filled up one time. That water is recirculated over and over and over and over again. If you've designed it and constructed it properly, you should never ever have to replace that water.
Okay, what do you think you learned that, we learned at elementary school, that water evaporates.
A minute ago, you said that it was 60% efficient. That means 40% is wasted. And I want to know how much is it gonna take gallons of water?
That's not the water. That was the power.
Power,
That's the natural gas.
natural gas.
How you gonna keep the water from evaporating like it
It's closed loop. There's no evaporative cooling in this system.
What's the backup plan if the gas goes out? They got these generators or something?
Yes. I worked with one. Yes.
The facts online say that your closed loop systems overheat and fail at over 95 degrees. I'm just curious, what's your backup plan when you need to cool your chips rather than letting them fail and melt? Are you going to switch to an open loop system then?
No, no. So most of the direct to chip cooling, the water system is actually very hot. It's not cold water. They actually operate on much warmer water than what you think. It's typically about 115 degrees. So I'm not really sure if I answered your question.
So your company's committing to staying and remaining closed loop. You have no backdoor avenues to change that to open loop in any way?
No.
How many other projects or how many other data centers do you all have?
Sure.
We are a new developer. So Craig and I met about 4 years ago at a previous company. That company wasn't necessarily sustainable and didn't necessarily treat its employees very well. So a few of us rolled out and started this company last year, sort of mid last year. So we are presently in the process of moving forward with our first developments, but we do not have any completed sites at present.
So we're like one of the tests.
Yeah.
Basically, because the reason I asked that is, I want to see if you all had any, previous projects that we can kind of look at and reference, so we can see like this.
We do, but it's with other companies. So collectively, we've built as a team about 150 data centers, ranging from quite small, sort of 2.5 megawatts, up into sort of towards your 50 to 60 megawatts. But as this team, as we stand here today, you're correct.
So if that's the case, then how are we to know, since you said the other companies were, not so good, how are we to know that your project will work and that it will be good? I know you have good intentions, but how are we to know that if you come here, that, you all will keep your word? Because the only thing you have to go by is other projects, you all don't have anything yet.
Right, I understand. And I think that's why, in speaking to you today, it's not about convincing you. Like, we're not here to give you a sales pitch. We would prefer, and our intention today is to simply educate, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. There are some developers trying and doing things a bit better than others, and there's others that aren't. And so I think any developer that comes to your community, you really want to understand what their values are, what they stand for, how their company is built, and what their intentions are. And that's really all we're doing here with you today.
Thank you for that. What I will say is other developers, and the difference is with other developers, they usually have, previous projects. But here now, you all don't have it, so it's kind of like, we're just taking words, we just have to go by what you say, but we don't really know what kind of, or if there are any adverse effects, or, if we will be affected or impacted negatively.
Right, I understand.
Thank you.
My concern is health issues. I have an autoimmune disorder. My mother is a heart patient. I have other family members with health issues, chronic health issues. What is this gonna cause to happen to us? Because I have done some research. It's gonna cause my MS, I'm gonna have more relapses. My vertigo is gonna start acting up even more. My mom's heart condition is gonna get worse. It's gonna cause people that are pregnant, their babies that they are carrying, to have health issues. I mean, I just don't understand. Y'all really don't have a lot of information for what you're trying to push on all of us.
Data centers have been around for a long time. So have nuclear power plants, so have power stations, steel mills, concrete plants, textile manufacturing facilities.
I don't hear humming from all of those though. I don't hear that. They don't mess with my vertigo. This is not a good fit for Marlboro County, just like it wasn't a good fit for Marion County. They voted it out. So I think Marlboro County needs to vote it out too. Y'all need to move right on down the road and find you another county that has those little hidden people in it that don't mind you coming into their town.
Thank you for your comment.
I have one question. I had a question, the same question you had, is were there other operations so that, someone could perhaps observe that operation?
Yeah, we can share that.
I know that you don't, you finish, I'm sorry. I know that you don't have one in operation. Would there perhaps be another operation that is built on the same model you're planning that you can name that somebody could look at?
Not in the
For
US.
research.
No, we can provide one out of Europe. Europe's got extremely high standards when it comes to power, water, the buildings themselves. Yeah. in Marlboro County. We're simply looking for a community that would like to work with us into the future.
Hi there. If your multi-billion-dollar parent corporation is so stable and you're so confident that this data center will be a massive success for Marlboro County, why aren't you signing these land deeds, utility contracts, and environmental permits under the actual Iron City Data Corporation name? Why are the Iron City Data Corporation's lawyers using empty shell company LLCs that can simply be left bankrupt and walked away from if a catastrophic issue arises, leaving Marlboro County taxpayers holding the bag? If you're here in full honesty, why can't you put your real company's name and assets on the line like Marlboro County has to?
I'd just like to say that's not us. We
It
don't
is
have a
in Pennsylvania? You don't have anything in Pennsylvania?
Yes, but we don't have a multi-billion-dollar parent company. We started last year. There's a lot of iron.
Okay, so that number is inaccurate. The rest of the information you're not declining?
It's all inaccurate. None of that is accurate.
So
That
you-
is not our company.
So you will put Iron City Data Corporation on the line, not an empty LLC. Will you commit to that today?
Yeah.
You will put your parent company name on the line.
So let me say this. I want to repeat something. This is an active project. So from a legal standpoint, and I don't have the economic development attorneys here today, we will refer to this project as we do all economic development projects by the code name until the project is announced. If we announce the project before we offer incentives, then it is no project at all. That's for any economic development project. That's not just data centers. This is a standard practice for economic development. We refer to the project code name until we announce the project, not before. So if we go out there and say X number company or whatever, then it's no longer a project.
Are you standing before us today under a strict NDA agreement?
No.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that's the reason why we are here today. The whole purpose, and I'm just going to speak for me as Marlboro County's Economic Development Director, is to come to the community first and give full transparency of what we have in the pipeline, and to require the company to engage the public. So there's no hidden agendas here. I want you guys to answer or to ask questions directly to the representatives, and I would like for them to give you a response or an answer. So that's the reason why they're standing.
Well, since if we, the people, don't want it, you're saying you're still gonna push it on us.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's what it sounds like.
What I'm saying is that we're here the whole purpose of this meeting is to get feedback. And then that information is presented to the county council.
The county's in too much debt as it is.
I understand.
They're trying to build a swimming pool that's the size of one in somebody's backyard. What's that going to accomplish?
Well, that's personally not my project. As far as economic development projects, our whole purpose is to be able to have a larger tax base. So it takes.
We're gonna pay more taxes.
That's not true,
We're going to
man.
pay more taxes.
That's not true, man.
They keep raising our taxes for everything. We're gonna pay more taxes.
So when you have economic development projects, it takes the pressure off of the average citizen. Let me take one over here and I'll come back.
Sure.
Right here. Right here. No, we have not. As I said before, there are not any agreements that have been created. There are no agreements that have been signed. We are presenting information on a current project that is considering the southeast and Marlboro County right now. That's what we're presenting to the public. Nothing has been agreed to, nothing has been finalized. Let me go to the next person.
We have a question right here.
Right here, right here.
Oh, so this is what I was gonna ask, and so that go back to my question. Somebody else said something, it made me think, I guess like if it was Google wanting to come here, and Google had 10 other data centers, we have something to go by, but like I said, y'all just give us work. What you said is what I wanna know something about. you talked about how the project has to basically be, you know, kept under wraps, due to something about incentives. And I guess if they are offering, or, you know, they're gonna create $600 million, $500 million, I don't know what the word is, I'm out of the blank, but if they're gonna have that kind of impact, then what is the need of incentives? If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Big tax break, buddy.
So,
Well, why would they need a tax break if they're bringing in all this money? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, I'll put it this way. Any economic development project is of a competitive nature. So we are competing not just with the Southeast, we're competing with every single economic development agency in the world. And I think somebody at the back of the room asked, why Marlboro County? Well, let's talk about it. We have a population of about 26,000 people in the county, but in a 110-mile radius, there's 11 million people. We know that we're 2.5 hours away from Charlotte, 2.5 hours away from Raleigh, 2.5 hours away from Greensboro. We know that the county owns the rail, right? So that's, if you look at what is actually going on in the world today, as fuel prices increase, rail is 4 to 5 times more efficient. We have natural gas, we have water, we have sewer, we have fiber optic and broadband and high-speed internet for a poor rural county, as we like to say. And by the way, we do have technical people here in the county. I'll use myself for it as an example. I'm from the area, and before I was an economic development director, which I've been doing this for 16 and a half years, I was a mechanical engineer for 14 years, working at WITS. You know, there are technical people here, and as Craig talked about the different tiers, I just want everybody to know that in the very near future, and rightfully so, increased skills are directly related to increased pay, as you've seen there. I think the top pay on that scale, tier 4, is like $300,000. But our objective is to create opportunities for everybody on every level. Let me take the question back here, right here.
I've got two. One specifically, one for you.
Okay.
First question is, if we have all that in this community, why is this the second data center we're being told about, and we still haven't got a hospital?
So,
The second question is for him. I would like to know, with the fuel cell technology that you're talking about, does that mean you will be off grid or you will still be tied to the grid?
So let me address your first question. The total investment, which the breakdown of total investment consists of machinery and equipment, buildings and land, which is real and personal property. Okay, so that total investment, what this company is saying, and what we've challenged all of our economic development projects to do, is actually give back a percentage into the community. That money could be used to refurbish or bring back the hospitals, which the county owns in this particular point in time. And that is something that's a high priority for us, is to bring our hospital back, so we can have a hospital in Marlboro County. So I'll let Craig answer this.
yes, to your second question about the fuel cells. So our intent is to be completely off-grid. So it's with what's called behind the meter. So we're generating all, sorry, so answering the gentleman's question, the fuel cell technology would be completely off-grid. So it would be a power plant made up of fuel cells on our facility, feeding our facility with no connection to the grid.
Respectfully, my question is for the woman in the back that just lied to us here, please. I just did a quick Google search. Your mention of PA was a big tell for me. I was able to find, I'm wondering if Iron City Wells LLC rings a bell? Iron City Data Corporation owns it. though they're not legally tied.
It doesn't own it. I can tell you that looking you human to human in the eye, we don't own it.
So you have no facilities, no relation to Pennsylvania at all?
We incorporated in Pennsylvania. Our intention was to focus on Pennsylvania given the issues that the communities faced with the steel industry up there and to help revive the communities. But Pennsylvania is, you know, not making it easy.
So you have no gas generators in Pennsylvania whatsoever?
Correct.
Okay.
Was there?
Okay, yeah, none of y'all talked more questions I had. I had one of the other things brought in more questions. This is a data center with a power plant. I have several questions. One is a one-time use of water. How much water? And over years and years and years, none of that water is going to evaporate, and it's never going to use any of our water. That sounds really unbelievable. And all those places you said that 2.5 hours, our drivers are 2 hours away, but that has nothing to do with this. Okay, we can find stuff that's much more appropriate for us than a data center. We can do a amusement park, which will bring those people here that are 2 hours away, and it'll bring us more money than this one-time investment that may be used for a hospital, that may not be used for a hospital, that is used however the county council sees fit. So that does nothing for us.
So, to address, I guess to address your comment, one, this is one of many different types of projects. So, from an economic development standpoint, we have 45 active projects in the pipeline. And I can tell you data centers are part of the mix, but we have food processing projects, we have manufacturing projects, we have distribution projects. So there are a variety of projects that are in the pipeline right now. So the reason why they're coming before you today, and it's not a push, it's for clarity, is because folks have personally asked me questions about certain things. Are we gonna run out of water? Are we gonna turn on our faucets and mud comes out? Just different questions. And so instead of really relying on rumors, I wanted you to hear directly from the horse's mouth, from the actual company, one of the actual companies that is considering being in Marlboro County. I want everybody to also understand that in order to even be in a conversation that's over any amount of money, 20, 60, $100 million, it takes a lot for us, and I think it's really a compliment to the people of Marlboro County and Marlboro County itself that we're actually in the conversation with these large investments from any company.
So my question is real simple and it does not involve y'all. Do you think it would be beneficial if maybe the county council had a public meeting to discuss with the citizens of the county what types of development we would like to see and what types we would not like to see? That might be beneficial to everyone. And as you might have you probably have a lot more influence with them than I do. Maybe you could encourage at some point for us to have a public meeting to discuss just the whole concept of what the people here want and what they don't want. Because it's hard to know who wants what. She can't talk of it.
Correct. And I think that's an excellent idea. And these sessions are open to everybody. Everybody is welcome to attend, no matter what walk of life you are, whether you're an elected official or non-elected official. I will say I really commend Project Apollo because our next county council meeting is on the 14th, which is next Tuesday. This company is going to be presenting again at the county council meeting. So I've asked them many times, and I'm so happy that they actually agreed to it. to engage the public, to answer the questions, you know, to be transparent. And that's what these meetings are all about. But I think that's an excellent idea. Thank you for that question.
Hi again. She just told this room that she has absolutely zero connection to Iron City Wells LLC. Are you not Rochelle James, the CEO and founder of Iron City Data Corporation? Infrastructure and Real Estate Registries list the Iron City #1 power generator and compute center in Pennsylvania as a combined operation between Iron City Wells LLC and Iron City Data. So you're telling this room that you're not the CEO, you're not Rochelle James, and you have no affiliation at all whatsoever?
So let me comment.
Okay, she won't.
Let me comment. Let me make a comment. Let me make a quick comment on this.
My question was for her, respectfully.
I understand, and I'm saying this respectfully.
Okay, thank you.
But let's just say, let me play devil's advocate for a minute. If that were true or not true.
Anyone can do a quick Google also.
But from an economic development standpoint, we are not here, I am not here to confirm or deny an active economic development project. Because to confirm any information is to announce this project, which would take this project off the table. So respectfully, I would advise Rochelle and Craig, if there's any questions asking about, is this the name of your company? Are you this person? Those questions would not be answered because we're not going to announce this project. We're going to refer to this project as Project Apollo by the code name, and we cannot confirm or deny any information that is presented that is referred to that or relates to that.
So, I like to look at things from both perspectives. So, for instance, say if they did come here, right, under certain pretenses, you know, the county approved it and all that good stuff, but they get here and they're doing the complete opposite. You know, they got, instead of having the closed little water source, they got the open water source. They start using this, using that. Then what happens then?
Are there any attorneys in the room? Anybody with a little background? Yeah. Representative Love, have you ever heard of something called clawbacks?
I have.
Could you tell us what clawbacks are?
Theoretically, if something basically goes wrong, there's a right under some contracts, under certain laws, to just basically what the word says, claw back, take the money back that you have, that was wrongfully used. Now, that's theoretically possible.
But in this case, you're saying that you are offering them incentives. So if it is what he said, you can take your part back, right? But what about them? You know, they got all this money. They got all this money to pay these top-notch lawyers, you know, and attorneys, and pay people out, pay judges and different things like that. Because, you know, I do see data centers investing like, you know, in politics a lot. So they got all this. My question is, are you all going to be aggressive about doing the clawback and all this good stuff? Because it seems like they have an advantage.
So to answer your question, the answer is yes. So our structure on the county side is, and I'm sure you guys have it on the city side as well, but from an economic development standpoint, we have economic development attorneys that draft these agreements up. And so with that being said, it is performance-based. There are clawbacks in there, and there are consequences or remedies to anything that is agreed upon that is not properly executed or carried out.
I have one. Okay. And the last one will be, who will be following up on, you know, on them, you know, regulating them? Who will do that? So they can make sure, you know, to make sure they're in compliance with it.
So it would be a couple of different agencies. It would be Department of Revenue, South Carolina Department of Revenue. It would be the IRS. It would be the county. You know, as we look at certain operations that have come to Marlboro County, and, you know, I won't call anybody out in particular, but I can remember, you know, I've been here almost 3 years, and I can remember that a company told the county that they were gonna come and manufacture something in the Mohawk facility. Well, when the auditor went out to that facility, that's not what they were doing. I think it was Bitcoining or whatever, and there was consequences for that. That company's no longer in operation, and we're very strict and stringent on that. But understand that we talk about things in layman's terms, and we talk about things in general, but there are some very serious legal documents that go in that both parties agree to. There are 3 readings and a public hearing for any incentives that are offered, and there are very extensive documents. So if anything is violated, both parties agree, their legal counsel and our legal counsel, which includes the county attorney and the economic development attorneys. And I think it's, I don't know, maybe 20 of those. They make sure that everything I translate to them, they translate into legal documents, and those callbacks are in there. Gentlemen.
Okay. All right, so data centers, they seem to be the first due to AI becoming a new thing, right? So let's say hypothetically, what of course we've been saying, the AI bubble does first. With the data center, can it rely on just getting data from search engine optimization or things like that, or will the business fail? Because if the business fails, would you be able to tear down the building? Would you be able to compensate the contract? Is there anything that could, more so I say, benefit us, as in, like, are we paying more just to get less, hypothetically? But this all really could happen the same way as you brought up the dot-com boom, how the dot-com boom failed in the 90s. We could hypothetically enter another recession, who knows? So would the building just be sitting there empty, and would the contract never get renewed and the county just lose money? Or will we actually get compensation for that?
So to answer your question, from an economic development standpoint, we always look at the opportunity to repurpose buildings and land. That's why when you go to certain areas, you may see a building there one day and maybe it turns into something else. And so there's always that opportunity there to repurpose for another use. We've done it with textile buildings. We've done it with different various types of buildings that's actually being used for something else.
Would that take time to create another project? Because another project might just take another year. It's going to take a couple.
Well, we have projects in the pipeline right now. The most important thing for us is it's important for us as a community to have available product, which means available sites and buildings that are ready to go, that we do our due diligence on. And so it's pretty easy to fill it pretty quick.
So you're already like envisioning if this fails, because it's potential, it can happen.
Well, I'll put it to you like this.
It's a yes or no question.
It's a yes,
Okay,
to give you a quick answer, but I want to elaborate on that. So here's the thing is that in business, you always have a contingency plan in case anything goes left. So to answer your question, the answer is yes.
I'm just looking to get clarification on that. My question is specifically for Rochelle again. If your company has nothing to hide and plans to be a good neighbor, will you post a multi-million-dollar upfront cash performance bond to be held in escrow by the county? So therefore, like if you violate any public promise, use a backroom loophole to exit, or abandon a half-built site, the county immediately keeps that cash? Yes or no?
I would prefer to have that written into legal contracts. So we are very authentic in who we are.
Yes or no?
Yes, but I would put it into a legal contract. I don't know if we could secure what you're looking for. So I'm saying our words matter.
Are you committed? Are you committed to putting that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think that's the way that the community, not just here but anywhere, needs to hold all business accountable. Because this is much bigger than data centres. It's anybody coming into your community. You want to know who you're welcoming, what they're going to bring, and what kind of neighbour they are and what their values are. As I think holding business accountable is something that we as the people absolutely need to do.
So yes, you're committed to doing that?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let me go back in. Back.
I wanted to put us back on track and talk about data centers and some of the misinformation out coming from a director of IT in Marlboro County. I do this for a living all the time. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and don't listen to a lot of the screaming and talking heads about, well, like he said, with the mud coming out of your faucets, and the fact that the data centers are so loud because a lot of your data mining companies that are fly-by-night companies that are coming in, promising the world and doing exactly that, is giving real data centers a bad name. There's a huge difference between a data center and a data miner. 9 times out of 10, a data miner facility like the one he was talking about at Mohawk, I was part of that as well. I was some of the people that helped find that and realized that they didn't do what they're supposed to help the auditor get rid of them. That's a dirty side of data. 9 times out of 10, it's people coming from third world countries that are very quiet about what they're doing. And all the real thing they're looking for is a place to dump their stuff for a while, make as much money as they possibly can, and run. Okay? That's a data miner. That is not a data center. The reason that we lost the last data center was not because of us. And I'm saying us at Marlboro County because we busted our butts on that whole thing. You guys can read into what you want to, and you can look into what you want to why we lost that data center, but I promise you, it was not the good people that are looking out for you in Marlboro County. And that goes along with the person that works with county council. I know people on county council, I work with them all the time, I have to. Those people were working side by side too. And keep in mind, that man that's standing in front of you guys, and the council people, I know that doesn't look like you got a lot of say-so, but one thing I will tell you, they're all looking at ways to bring in more revenue into this county with businesses that will offset your taxes that you don't have to pay every single year. Because the more people like this that they can bring in the county, and we don't want everybody here, and you don't want everybody coming in and doing whatever, but the more money that they come in, the more things they pay for, like new parks, they pay for fire trucks, they pay for EMS trucks, they pay for all kinds of things that will offset your taxes that you guys don't have to pay. So I'm just, it seems like we went from, the good and the bad of data centers to not about attacking these folks. And they're just here to present what they want to bring to the county. And like he said, you can take it or leave it. If that's something you're not interested in as a county, that's great. That's your opinion. That's fine. You talk to your people, you come to the meetings, you tell them, hey, look, that's just something we don't want in Marlboro County. That's fine. But, it seems like somebody's been, around here really mad at these folks for some reason. And I don't understand why. But I kind of wanted to steer it back to where we were supposed to be here for, and talking about the good and the bad and what they're offering as far as a data center is.
Thank you. Hold on just a second. Let me get one to come back to.
One of the things, like we say, we came here today, Mr. McNeil and the team, is to give information only. 2 weeks ago, there was another group of people here giving false information about the data center. It's live. We're going to use all our water. Your light bill will go up higher and higher. All false. All false information. I've been on council for 20 years. Before council, I was a Parks and Recreation. Now, in the years that I've been here, we as a county, we cry all the time. We complain all the time. I sat here for an hour, I haven't heard one thing positive that this data center can bring. And they told us some positive things that can happen. We talking about what if. 10, 15 years ago, who would ever thought that Oak River would close down? Nobody. Now, right now, today, the penny is being removed from the economy. Who thought it? Nobody ever thought that. Not the penny. Yeah. Not the penny. Come on. Now, when we look at the data center, they had to give information. They give information. We need a hospital. What a hospital run off of? Data. Hospital run off data. We can't get, how can we draw everybody to Marlboro County if we do not have the necessary resources? The hospital, telehealth, Google. Your lady on Google, she go on Google, see she got here. That's data. We don't need a data center. Our young kids, now the average age in here is over 50 years of age. The average person here over 50. Maybe 1 or 2 people under 50 years old. Now the data center, not for us. It's not AI, not gonna be for our generation. It's for the new people.
Our children.
The younger. You know, when our children come here and, Mama, I don't want to go to your grandma's house because she can't got internet. She don't have internet. She don't have this, she don't have that. You know, the data center, information, AI is the future.
Can I get a speech?
I'm talking.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Let's be respectful. One at a time.
The data center is our future. The children is our future. This data center, if they'll come here, they'll go somewhere else. You know, and then they'll come, well, they'll go somewhere else. No, we need money here. Marlboro County needs money here. We need jobs. We got jobs here starting at $40,000. $40,000 jobs. How much you give to make that kind of money? Entry level. At least give them opportunity to do a presentation, and we get all the information. We get all the information.
All right, now we have one person talking at a time. That was being very disrespectful. He is talking.
One person at a time.
Give them opportunity to give the information. We and the people at the council and the citizens of Marlboro County can get information, process it. It's not just, we people here don't make the whole county. We're just a handful. We're just a handful of people in here. We cannot decide what's best for the whole county. If it's not good for you, so be it. But if it's best for the county, maybe so. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for that. Okay.
I just want to say that I appreciate you coming here bringing this information because it's doing anything. You go next. We did hear a lot of stuff that's not positive, but we need infrastructure here. We need stuff that's going to benefit the community. Also, if you're a voting person on a council or whatever, you can stand up and give your personal opinion. But when you sit down here and go vote on something, you have to think about the whole community, not your personal thing. Okay? So that's what I want to clear here. All right? So thank you very much.
All right, we got a question right here, Tony.
Yeah, let's go right here first.
I'm standing. Okay, they're not here just to give information because the flyer said discussion. So to me, the meaning of discussion is everybody can talk. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay, so again, my one comment, turn it to me. Yeah, the reason we lost the data center last time because most of us didn't want it. Okay, and we still don't. And you talk about a fly-by-night, how do you know about fly-by-night? This is their first project. You know, and we are allowed to do research and ask questions. And if we don't do research and ask questions, there's something wrong with us. We need to do research. And know everything on there may not be 100%, but it's enough information on there for us to figure out what we want and what we don't want. And I heard the word transparency, full transparency up here. Now, if you can confirm your name, why in the world should we trust?
So,
Let me, again, I'm gonna respond again to that. Legally, we cannot disclose the name of any project while it's active.
She asked for her name.
Well, she can't, that would be confirming what company she works for. And that would be announcing the project. So at that point, if any question is confirmed at all, that is taken and seen as an announcement. That means that any economic development project that does that, the deal is off the table, the discussion is over.
Non-transparency.
Another question, is there a question back here? Was there a question back here?
I just have to ask one thing. Is the county council going to make the decision on this, or are they gonna let the people of Marlboro County vote on this? Because I don't think the county council should speak for everybody.
so,
To answer your question, the council will be hearing from their constituents of the county, which are the people. And the elected officials that you elected, the information will be presented to them and they will take a vote, at each reading that is presented. So there's gonna be 3 readings.
Like they do during election time, when they do their things on the ballot, you can vote if you want it or not. They need to put that on there too, if we want a data center or not, so we the people can vote.
I think that's something that would have to be presented to the county council.
I'm just curious, so you plan on using natural gas generators?
So the fuel source is natural gas, but it's not combustion generators, they're fuel cells. So it's an electrical chemical process. So we require natural gas to combine with air. It's basically operates like a battery.
Does it release nitrogen oxide?
No. Very, very small amounts, very, very small.
So yes.
Okay, so very coincidentally, Iron City Wells LLC allows 15 natural gas generators to dump nearly 20 tons of nitrogen oxide into our air.
I don't mean to interrupt.
So it doesn't pollute the air at all?
Iron City Wells is not.
I understand, I'm just saying as a comparison, just for playing devil's advocate here, just for comparison, if you're truly self-sufficient and green, why is your business model dependent on polluting the air if it's releasing nitrogen oxide?
The best way I can answer this is in the US, other than nuclear and coal, there's a large amount of natural gas reserves here, like there is in Australia, which is why I can draw similarities. In order, from our perspective, to be a responsible data centre developer and bring our own power, we began looking at natural gas. The best we can find on the market is a company called Bloom. They're pretty great in what they do. They're very focused on efficiency and sustainability, and they are the ones that produce the fuel cells. What happens is the natural gas actually is converted to hydrogen and then goes in. It's quite a clean system. And we have a decarbonisation and energy strategy that, while it includes renewables and other sources, it's about an eventual transition to green hydrogen. Because at the moment on the planet, that is the cleanest source of energy for us as a society. It's just expensive right now and the infrastructure's not there. So we're taking slow, methodical steps towards cleaner fuel and pushing that boundary.
Question back here.
oh, right here.
I'll be quick, it's very short, but this, it'll be for the, Craig, is that right?
Right.
This fuel cell generation facility, how many megawatts of electricity do you expect it to produce?
So, if that rendering is still up, but that, That building represented about 20 megawatts.
Okay.
What was the size of the building? What was the size of that building? What was the size of the building?
Oh, that building was 50,000 square feet.
And what about here?
That's a representative, that's an indicative size of a data center, that will,
So that's the same size you want to be?
it could be, sure.
So you don't know?
We don't know. I mean, there is no definite project or site. That's an indicative 20 megawatt data center, 50,000 square
The
feet.
answer is you don't know.
Yeah, well, I got a question, but I want to make a statement, and this is just my opinion, you know, say that all the time, most people not like, but I just think that we all here need to get involved, whether you're for it or against it. Please participate in your community meetings, because it just seems like we have people that are worried about a dollar. You know, they would rather sell us for a dollar. You know, they say all money ain't good money, but we find ourselves just worried about a dollar, replacing a dollar back in the dollar. For a project that has nothing that we can go and look at and say, well, hey, you did it here, you did it there, but they would rather put us on the line to be test dummies for a dollar. And I just find that so disheartening. But my question would be, you know, a lot of people here struggle and different things like that. And you know, you are gonna need, I'm sure, some form of utilities from some way. What are you all going to do, I guess, to kind of ease the burden on the people that are already here? So for example, if you know, what infrastructure are you all willing to, I guess, go in on, you know, to alleviate the financial burden of citizens? If that makes sense.
So the thing that I'm so excited about with the data centers is in most parts of the county, you know, you have different utility providers. The city, for instance, is responsible for or controls the water, the sewer, the natural gas, sometimes the electricity. So any upgrades that are coming as a result of the data center will be willing to pay for it. They're going to pay for those upgrades. We're not asking for that to come from the city.
Well, I was asking about that, but I was asking them what are they willing to do. You know, you can tell us,
Yeah.
but I want to hear from you.
Oh, well, yeah. I'll let you get directly from them. I just wanted to make that comment that.
Well, I get what you're trying to do, but that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking them.
Right.
It don't got nothing to do with the city.
So is your question specifically around utility infrastructure?
Well, yeah, that or you know, I guess, or anything else you feel like saying. But yeah, most.
Said, how you gonna ease the burden on the citizens with utility fees, is what you asked.
I think the best way to answer your question is, as we mentioned in our presentation, 2% of all project costs go towards impacts or the community that we would, you know, intend to work with. How that is spent is up to the county, the city, and the community. One of the ideas we have is to work with the local technical college so that we can start helping educate the new generation, the new workforce to go into these jobs. Because whether there's a data center here or not, there's going to be jobs available in the technology space throughout the US. And so if we're able to educate this new generation and the younger, it doesn't have to be new, it can be, you know, current generation, but if we're able to help with that education, bring a curriculum in, have a tiered program, upskill, uplift the workforce, then they're able to travel anywhere in the US and secure one of those jobs, because those jobs are going to be in big demand in the next sort of 10 to 15 years. So that's one of the things that we'd like to do.
So like scholarships and internships,
Right.
y'all are open to?
Right. We would actually like to build a classroom
Like
in the
going to
middle.
schools and stuff, and, you know, or?
Well, we're talking about even as young as year 8, starting the pathway there in terms of apprenticeships and trades. We'd also like to have a classroom in the middle of the campus with a microdata centre so you can touch and feel it and you can see it and it's not such a foreign sort of object. And so the intention would be to work with the technical college here and support that pathway. But again, how that money is spent is really dependent on what the community wants. That would be one of the ideas we put forward.
Okay. So no self-starting initiatives, it would be, you know, like you said, the county or whatever.
City, councilman.
Well, yeah, like city and county, but I like, so no self-starting, so like, for example, if like wellness is an issue here, you know, you wouldn't kind of, not saying that you don't want to do it or not, but, you know, like create like a program centered around, you know, getting the community up with wellness or, you know, things like that, so it would.
Yeah, so it depends
would
what, right, and I think it would need to be a vote. What does the community want? How do they want to apportion that? We've also talked about microfinance, which is a big initiative through Asia and Africa where you can seed entrepreneurs and they go out and build a business, and it's sort of a really beautiful cyclical relationship. So there's a lot of interesting things that we could do, but ultimately it's up to you.
Thank you.
I also wanted to mention that I would also ask, please ma'am and please sir, you know, feel free to contact us. Tell us your concerns, tell us that what programs you actually want. You know, I personally have an open door policy, so we all would love to hear from you. So.
My question for Mr. Chris, Rochelle, as far as the natural gas goes, that would be your primary source. Is there sufficient natural gas here in Marlboro County right now? Have you studied that? And the second part of the question is, what happens if there's not, if there's, and natural gas is unavailable, what happens at that point?
Yeah, so that's part of the due diligence that we're doing now on Marlboro County. So we're in touch with Carolina Gas Transmission. I mean, it's likely a data center of this size would require its own pipeline. So it wouldn't be drawing gas from the local distribution system. It would have a dedicated pipeline for Carolina Gas.
Is there any backup for if the gas is not available at a certain time, what powers the facility?
Well, there would be redundant feeds that's gas feeds, and then diesel generators would be backup if we lost everything.
Generator backup.
Yeah, or solar. You know, we're looking at all sorts of renewable energy into the mix.
She mentioned giving 2% back to the community. I was just curious if that's 2% of gross revenue of the parent company or 2% of the LLC?
2% of the project cost.
Project, so not from the parent company's gross income?
No, from the project cost.
Will you guarantee a legally binding hard dollar minimum rather than a percentage?
It depends on the size of the project. So we want to be very mindful that wherever we're working, whatever the project is, that's in balance with what's going into the community. So we simply set the 2% benchmark.
Thank you.
Is that 2% permanently, or is just for that project until the project is one-time thing?
Correct. It'll be one time. So if we were to bring in, so as I mentioned, 600 million in investment, it'll be 12 million. But you can also invest that and simply keep that growing as well. It doesn't all need to be spent.
So once you use it, there's no financial benefit to the county, period. Everything is given.
Or there'll be the programs that were set up.
Financial.
The jobs, training, education.
Financial pay to the county.
So let me take that one. So to answer your question, for this project that ranges between $600 and $700 million, total investment, machinery and equipment, land and building, 65 to 80 jobs. It's about $13 million that's going back to the county every year. Our current budget, right now in 2026, our entire budget for the county is $17 million.
How do you say every year, and she say one time?
So she's referring to the community contribution back from the total cost. You asked about the
I said,
county.
what would you be giving, how would the community, ongoing? She
So,
said that one time.
one time
How
on
you
a,
saying every year? It's confusing.
so let me clarify something. I'm just gonna throw some numbers out here, for instance.
We got to spend, you know, we just want to answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer your question, but let me throw some numbers out, okay? You got a $10 billion project. 2% of that is what, 200 million? So 200 million would go back to the community. That's one time, but it's 200 million.
And that's the problem. We interested in this one time, big lump sum of money that we have no control over where how it's spent because it's up to the council and nothing ongoing.
Well, it's up to the citizens
No,
to actually give. Well, we would like, so this is, this is what I wanted to say, is that 2% one time is actually going to the community. We want your input as to what and how we could spend that money on the community. What are your highest priorities? Need your input.
Apprenticeship program. We have one.
Education.
I agree.
So I was wondering, you know, just based off that, like, would you all, or I guess we probably can't talk about it since it's in the works, but could there be somewhere like, you know, you do it like every 10 years or something like that? Or does it have to just be a one-time thing?
So their model is based off of the total investment and commitment. So if it's 600 to 700 million, for instance, for Project Apollo, it would be 2% of that. If it happens to be, again, hypothetically, a $10 billion project, 2% of that is $200 million. So that each project.
Throwing out the big ones, start small, what if it ain't a $3 billion?
Well, it'd be 2% of the $3 billion.
Throw out these big moves.
Yeah, if it was 200 million, it'd be 2% of that. If it was 50 million, it would be 2% of that. But per project.
Oh, okay, so I mean, does it have to be like per project, or could it be like something like we do the 2% and then maybe like every 10 years, you know, you do like 1% or something like that, you know? That way it's just, you know, you continuously get the stuff, you know, to stay in the flow.
The only way it would be something that's continuous would be continual investment. So typically we look at that investment number over the course of 5 years, but the company could very easily expand. When they expand, then we look at new investments.
But they're constantly making money.
Yes, and so we're constantly making money. They're constantly making money.
Whether they expanding or not. As long as they're in operation, they are making money.
Correct. They are making money.
They're not
And
gonna give anything back, they just put this one-time big figure up in there to make you think, oh, you're getting a big thing. What about long gone? You may be here 50 years, and you get that one-time thing.
so let me ask this question. Can I ask a question? What other company that has come to Marlboro County has ever offered this?
What other company has that much dangerous?
None, because Marlboro County don't want to grow.
Yeah, we don't wanna do anything that's gonna be
They
good
don't
for
want
us.
Let me try to take a few more questions because we got about 8 to 10 minutes left on the questions.
This is my last one, I promise.
Okay.
Since you admit your hydrogen relies on fossil fuels, that means your on-site generation blocks will release tons of nitrogen oxide and particulate matter right here into our air every year. Pollutants that medical science proves trigger childhood asthma and permanent lung damage. My question to you is this. How can you stand there and claim that your 2% donation to AI child education is an investment in our children's future when the fossil fuel emissions from your physical facility will actively destroy the very lungs whose kids need to sit in that classroom and breathe?
So, I think there's a misconception on how the fuel cells operate. There is no particular matter whatsoever.
So you're not using dirty hydrogen? 95% of all hydrogen in the United States is dirty hydrogen. It's manufactured
Right, but
through fossil fuels.
we are not burning natural gas. It's an electrochemical process. There is no emission, there is no particular matter emitted into gas.
0%.
Zero particular matter.
Thank you.
But they've never done it yet, this first time.
No, fluid fuel cells have been around for decades.
So it's old technology.
So we got time for one more question.
Right here, I got one. Right here, I got one. I had to ask. I got something to ask. Go ahead. Why now? Why the such interest? Why the willing to put the money up? Why? Simple question. Why? And I don't want to hear the screaming stuff. I understand all of that. There's for you to willing to put up this amount of money in this location. And common sense, we run a closed loop system. I understand what that is. And then we're gonna run off natural gas. Y'all committed to 100%. Y'all not gonna be tied to Marlboro County's grid. 100%. Not tied. Okay, then you go on the fuel cells, right? Which they do have dangerous chemicals in them. There's no getting around that. There's no saying that they don't. They do. They do. That's just so. With all that being said, that's the short and curlies of it. Why though? Why are y'all so willing to invest this money now? Only for 20 employees at a time. And to be truthful, the only ones that are around here is going to be the top tier is the ones that's going to get the jobs. The good jobs ain't going to go to Marlboro County unless you, in like the 2% commitment, commit 50% of the jobs that's going to come to Marlboro County. Because I'm already in this situation. I know how it works.
So the question is why?
There's a bunch of them. Just pick one after anyway.
So I'm gonna hand the mic to Rochelle, but I wanna say this. When they showed the chart with all the different job categories, I don't know if you were in here when they showed that.
Oh yeah, I read it. Yeah.
So that job category had salary ranges.
I understand.
All those jobs were not engineers. We have folks in our county that qualify for those jobs.
You out of touch with reality, buddy.
So we don't have security guard jobs. Was that not one of the jobs there? We don't have electricians and
you have no idea how hard it is to find him. Truly, you're out of touch, buddy. And when it comes to that grant that was down there, tier 1's all you're gonna get.
I have to.
When I said education, I meant education. We need education in this county. And there's a whole lot of other commitments. I'm all for us growing, and I'm all for the right way of doing things. But this sounds like we're giving them too sweet of a deal. The orange ain't worth the squeeze.
I'll let Rochelle answer part of the why a little bit.
Thanks. I think we are nearly out of time, so I'm going to do my best to address your question. And then you've been a tough crowd, but I'd like to close tonight with
about the health issues that I asked about earlier. That's what you
No, I'm going to answer your question first. So about 5 years ago, when I was deep in my non-profit work, the amount of time that you spend fundraising compared to actually delivering projects is like 70-80% towards 20% actually doing good work. And so I started working with someone and we were looking for a for-profit model that could drive impacts. And we started out with wildlife tourism and national parks, etc. And then as I entered the data center world, I realized that this business, this for-profit, could do that. And so that's the why. The why is businesses need to give back. I've lived in many different communities in my life. I've never had public consultation. I've never had someone come in and say, these are my values, this is what we like to give the community. They just sort of come in and do their thing. And so we are rewriting that narrative. So that's the why. And it just so happens to be data centres, which I guess is a good time as any. The closing statement is this, and I understand your perspective, I really do. It's almost a not in my backyard. And the reason I say that is because our lifestyle, the one that we wake up in the morning, we check our phone, we send our messages, we download music off Spotify, we may put jazz music on the TV that we're streaming through YouTube. That's what I do. I may get on ChatGPT and ask them questions, and then I go about my work. Our very lifestyle is driving data centers. The way we live online, our modern lifestyle is why they're here in the first place. We are the ultimate end user. We are the customer. And so I understand the conundrum and the juxtaposition of not wanting a data center, but our lives being built around one. And so I think that's why when we're here to talk to you today, it's definitely from a place of education, but it's also from a place of data centers are here and they're part of our life. So who would we want to be in our community that's actually delivering the data center service? What would we want them to stand for? What were their values? Would they give back? Would they consult? Would they think about the power and where it's coming from and try to do it sustainably? Would they care about education? Would they want to educate the next generation? And so it's really thinking about the fact. And I ask you, when you go home, between now and the time you go to bed, how many times do you look at your phone? How many times do you research something on your phone or online or check messages? Have a look at how many contact points you have with a data centre between now and when you go to sleep, because for most of us, it's quite a lot. And that's really the only closing remark I have. And I know that's not, it kind of leaves it open-ended, but when I found out what data centres were 4 years ago and realised the power consumption and what they were and realised how I use them every day, rather than fighting it, I wanted to go in there and change it so that we can actually build things that are done from a place of beauty, that are done from a place of integration, that are black balanced with our planet. So thank you, honestly, for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. It's been really interesting, and I'm glad that we've had the chance to share some facts, I hope, with you and to get you thinking a little bit. Safe travels tonight, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Rochelle and Craig. Again, on behalf of Marlboro County and Marlboro County Economic Development, we sincerely thank everybody for coming out and giving your input. So sort of our next steps on July the 14th, as I said, next Tuesday, Project Apollo will be presenting at the County Council meeting as well. And again, we really appreciate the community participating in this event and giving your feedback. So at this time, we're going to adjourn and end the meeting, but thank you for coming out. God bless you.